Hello, I'm Reverend Karen Davis of First Christian Church. I'm sure there are those times when you feel as though, God, couldn't you maybe think the way that I think? Why do you have to be so gracious, God? We find in Scripture one of the most prominent stories, the story of Jonah and the Ninevites, that Jonah kept trying to hide from taking God's message to the Ninevites because Jonah didn't like them and didn't want to share that good news. And just like Jonah, sometimes we get frustrated and we think, oh God, why do you have to like them? I don't like them. They're awful. But yet God reminds us again and again that it's not about what we think, but about what God thinks and how God sees the world and sees each of us. This week we are looking at one of the stories in the New Testament that is very similar, where Jesus goes and invites himself into the home of Zacchaeus. And all of the folks around are like, oh, yuck, Zacchaeus, that tax collector, why are you going to his house of all the places? Yet we see in the graciousness and mercy of Christ that Zacchaeus is just as much loved as each of us. In fact, as that mercy is shown to Zacchaeus, he decides to return all the money that he's taken from others. That's not to say that what Zacchaeus was doing was wrong. Indeed, it was. And so we need to be sure to call out that wrongdoing, that we need to be sure to call out corruption and crime and all of those behaviors. But yet at the same time, we need to offer God's mercy. So this week, as we struggle with that dichotomy of righteousness and mercy, we are reminded that we are frustrated sometimes that God is as merciful as God is. But lucky for us, God is merciful because we sometimes are on that receiving end that others perhaps are thinking, ooh. So we are to be thankful for God's mercy and to find ways to extend that to others, even to the Zacchaeus of the world. Because we can find that through that mercy, amazing things could happen. That again and again, God surprises us and maybe even offends us with God's grace and mercy. But that is good news. So let us rejoice in God's graciousness and let us continue to find ways to extend that mercy as God has so wonderfully extended it to each of us. I invite you to read the story of Zacchaeus in Luke 19, verses 1 through 10, and to reflect on who it might be in your life that you need to extend God's mercy and grace to. And may you continue to be grateful for the grace and mercy that God has shown to you. Go with God's blessings and God's grace.